My son thought I couldn't read the signature on that power of attorney document. He thought 37 years of retirement had dulled my eyes and softened my brain. He was catastrophically wrong. I had spent 4 decades as an FBI forensic accountant, and I could spot a forged signature from across a room in dim lighting. The one on that document, the one supposedly bearing my name, had been traced so carefully that the pressure points were all wrong. The ink pooled where a natural hand would have flowed, and when I looked up from that paper and saw my son Michael standing in my Denver kitchen, his wife Ashley beside him with her fake sympathetic smile, I did the only thing a father who had just discovered his own son was trying to steal everything could do. I started documenting everything. Before I tell you how my own flesh and blood ended up in federal custody facing wire fraud charges, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Hit subscribe if you've ever trusted someone completely, only to discover they were counting the days until you were gone. The mountain wind was howling outside my cabin that October evening, making the aspens rattle their golden leaves against the windows like skeletal fingers. I was sitting in my leather chair, the one I'd bought myself after retiring from the bureau 5 years ago. My wife Sarah had been gone 3 years now, and the silence of the house had become something I'd learned to live with, not enjoy, but tolerate. Michael visited every Sunday like clockwork. At least, that's what I had thought it was. Duty, love, family. I was wrong. I had just come back from my weekly chess game at the community center when I found him in my study. The door was supposed to be locked. I kept it locked because that's where I stored everything important. Tax records, investment statements, my will, the deed to the cabin. But Michael had a key. I'd given it to him 2 years ago when I had that health scare, the kidney stones that landed me in the ER. Just in case, I'd said, if something happens to me, you'll need to access my papers. He was standing at my desk, the old oak one that had been my father's. He didn't hear me come in because he was focused, intensely focused, on the document in front of him. Ashley was beside him, holding up her phone with the flashlight pointed at the paper. "Make sure the date matches," she whispered, "and check the witness signatures. They need to look different from each other." I stood in the doorway and watched. I didn't make a sound. The years at the Bureau had taught me that the best evidence comes from observation, from patience. Michael picked up a pen. Not my pen. A different one, probably purchased specifically for this purpose to match the ink. He pressed it to the paper and began to write. My name, Thomas Bennett. But it wasn't my signature. It was an imitation, a forgery, a crime being committed in my own home by my own son. "How's that?" Michael asked, holding up the document. Ashley took a photo with her phone. "Perfect. Now we just need to get it notarized and filed with the county. Once it's on record, we have full power of attorney. All accounts, all assets, everything." "What about Dad?" Michael asked, and my heart seized for a moment, hoping he would stop, hoping there was still a conscience somewhere in there. "What about him?" Ashley said. "The doctor's letter says he's showing early signs of dementia, memory loss, confusion, inability to manage finances. It's all documented. We're just being responsible children." There was no doctor's letter. I knew because I had just had my annual physical 2 weeks ago. Dr. Morrison had declared me fit as a fiddle, sharper than most 50-year-olds she treated. So either they had forged that too, or they were planning to. Michael nodded, slowly. "And the accounts?" "We start small," Ashley said. "Transfer funds to cover our debts first. The credit cards, the mortgage. Then we liquidate the investment portfolio and move it offshore. By the time anyone questions anything, we'll have everything secured and he'll be in managed care." Managed care. They meant a nursing home. They meant locking me away somewhere while they stripped my life savings and sold my home. I cleared my throat. They spun around so fast that Ashley dropped her phone. It clattered on the hardwood floor, the screen cracking. Michael's face went white, then red, then a mottled combination of both. "Dad," he stammered, shoving the paper behind his back like a child caught stealing cookies. "I didn't hear you come in." I walked into the room slowly, deliberately. I kept my expression neutral, almost confused. This was the moment. I could confront them now, accuse them, throw them out, but that would tip my hand. They would destroy the evidence, claim it was a misunderstanding, lawyer up. No, I needed them to think they had succeeded. I needed them to commit fully, so that when the trap closed, there would be no escape. "What are you two doing in here?" I asked, letting my voice sound weak, slightly bewildered. "I thought we were going to have dinner." "We were just looking for your insurance papers, Dad," Ashley said smoothly, recovering faster than Michael. "You mentioned you couldn't find them last week, remember?" I had never mentioned any such thing, but I nodded slowly. Did I? I don't recall. My memory's been playing tricks lately. I watched Michael's shoulders relax slightly. He was buying it. He wanted to buy it. "It's okay, Dad," Michael said, walking over and putting his hand on my shoulder, the hand that had just forged my signature. "That's why we're here. To help. Why don't you go sit down, and I'll make you some tea." I let him guide me out of the study. I shuffled slightly, made myself smaller. Inside, my mind was racing, cataloging evidence, building a case. The document they were holding was a power of attorney form, probably downloaded from some legal website. They had forged my signature, and were planning to forge notarization. That was federal mail fraud if they used the postal service. Wire fraud if they filed it electronically. And if they transferred money across state lines, that brought in even more charges. But I needed more. I needed them to actually attempt the fraud, to make the transfers, to create an undeniable paper trail. I needed to catch them not just planning the crime, but executing it. Michael made tea. I sat at the kitchen table and watched him move around my kitchen like he owned it. Ashley had disappeared, probably into the bathroom to compose herself. When she came back, her smile was plastered on again, bright and false. "Your father was just telling me about his memory issues," Michael said to her, handing me a mug. "I think it might be time to look into some additional care options." "I hate to say it," Ashley added, sitting down across from me, "but I agree. We've been researching some wonderful assisted living facilities. Beautiful places, Dad, with activities and nursing staff. You'd have so much more support." "Is it expensive?" I asked, taking a sip of tea. It was too sweet. Michael knew I didn't take sugar. "Don't worry about the cost," Michael said. "We'll handle everything. In fact, I was thinking it might make sense for me to take over managing your finances. Just temporarily, until you're feeling more settled." "That's very kind of you, son," I said softly. "But I can still manage." "Of course you can," Ashley said quickly. "We just want to help. Maybe we could start small. Give Michael access to one account, just for household expenses. That way, if you forget to pay a bill, he can handle it." I pretended to consider this. I took another sip of the terrible tea. "Maybe that would be good," I finally said. "Yes, let's do that." Michael's eyes lit up. He thought he'd won. He thought the old man was giving up control willingly. "Great," he said. "I'll set that up this week. And Dad, there's some paperwork we'll need you to sign. Just standard stuff. Power of attorney in case of emergency. Medical directives, nothing major." "Of course," I said. "Whatever you think is best." They stayed for another hour, making small talk, pretending to care about my week. When they finally left, I watched from the window as they got into their BMW, the one they couldn't afford, and drove away. The moment their taillights disappeared down the mountain road, I moved. I went back to my study. The document was gone, of course. They'd taken it with them. But they'd left something behind in their panic when I'd surprised them. Ashley's phone had been in a case, and when it cracked, a small memory card had popped out. It was sitting under my desk, overlooked in their haste to appear innocent. I picked it up with a tissue, careful not to leave prints, and inserted it into my computer. The files loaded. Photos, hundreds of them. Documents, bank statements, spreadsheets. They'd been photographing my financial records for months. Every Sunday visit, every time I'd gone to the bathroom or stepped outside, they'd been in here taking pictures. I scrolled through them. My investment portfolio, my savings account statements, the deed to my cabin, my will, they'd photographed everything, building a complete picture of my assets. The most recent photos were dated today. The forged power of attorney, multiple angles. Text messages between them discussing which accounts to drain first. A screenshot of a consultation with an offshore banker in the Cayman Islands. They'd been planning this for at least 6 months, maybe longer. I sat back in my chair. The initial shock was fading, replaced by a cold, analytical calm. This was a case now. I'd worked hundreds of them over my career. The only difference was that this time, the perpetrator was my son. I needed to think like an investigator, not a father. The father in me wanted to call Michael, to ask him why, to beg him to stop. But the investigator knew that would be futile. People who plan fraud this elaborate don't stop when caught. They double down. They get better lawyers. They claim misunderstanding or elder confusion. No, I needed evidence that was ironclad. I needed to document everything, create a timeline, establish clear intent and action, and I needed to do it without them knowing I was onto them. I opened a new encrypted folder on my computer and labeled it Case File MB, Michael Bennett, my son. I uploaded all the photos from the memory card. Then I started making notes, time-stamped and detailed. Tonight's events, the conversation, the forged signature, their plans. Then I called an old colleague from the bureau. James Chen had retired the same year I did, but he'd gone into private forensic consulting. We played golf sometimes, complained about our knees, talked about grandkids he had and I wished I had. Tom, he answered on the second ring. Little late for a social call. I need your help, James, I said, and I need you to not ask too many questions right now. There was a pause. James had been a field agent for 20 years before moving to white-collar crime. He knew when something was serious. What do you need? Surveillance equipment, I said. Cameras, audio recording, small, undetectable. And I need documentation services. Someone who can verify and time-stamp digital evidence to make it admissible in court. Tom, what's going on? I'm building a case, I said. And the subject is someone close to me. Another pause. Family? Yes. Jesus, Tom. Are you sure you want to go down this road? Family cases, they get ugly. There's usually no coming back from them. There's already no coming back, I said quietly. I just need to make sure justice is served. Okay, James said. I'll bring equipment tomorrow morning. And Tom, be careful. If they're desperate enough to forge documents, they might be desperate enough for other things. I hadn't thought of that. The idea that Michael might actually hurt me seemed impossible. But then again, I never thought he'd try to rob me either. After I hung up, I went through the house, looking at it with new eyes. Where would they attack next? What would they do once they realized I hadn't signed their fake documents willingly? They'd need to escalate, to force the issue somehow. The thought kept me awake most of the night. James arrived at 8 the next morning, dressed like he was going hiking, carrying a backpack full of equipment that probably cost more than my truck. We spent 3 hours installing cameras. Tiny things, smaller than a button, hidden in picture frames, smoke detectors, light fixtures, audio recording devices in the study, the kitchen, the living room, everything feeding to a secure server that James set up in my bedroom closet. If they come back and do anything incriminating, James said, you'll have it all recorded. Video, audio, timestamp, the works. Admissible in federal court. Thank you, I said. There's something else, James said, pulling out a folder. I ran a preliminary background check on your son and daughter-in-law. Just public record stuff. Tom, they're in deep. Credit card debt, over $200,000. Their mortgage is 3 months behind. Michael's business failed last year, and he's being sued by 3 separate creditors. Ashley's being investigated by her employer for expense fraud. I sat down heavily. I had no idea. They've been hiding it well, James said. But people this desperate, they're dangerous. They're not thinking rationally anymore. They're in survival mode. What do I do? You have 2 options, James said. Cut them off completely right now. Change locks, get a restraining order, move your assets out of their reach. Or you let them keep going, gather more evidence, and build an airtight case. If I cut them off now, they'll probably file for bankruptcy, maybe face some minor consequences from creditors. But they walk away. They learn nothing, and they'll probably try this with someone else someday. And if I build the case, they go to prison, James said flatly. Federal wire fraud, forgery, conspiracy, elder abuse. We're talking 5 to 10 years minimum. But you'll have to watch them try to destroy you first. You'll have to let them think they're winning. Can you do that? I thought about Michael as a boy, teaching him to fish in the stream behind this cabin, watching him graduate college, walking him down the aisle at his wedding. The son I thought I knew. Then I thought about him standing in my study, forging my name, planning to lock me away so he could steal everything I'd worked for. I can do it, I said. Over the next 2 weeks, Michael and Ashley came to visit 3 more times. Each visit, they brought documents for me to sign. Medical histories that claimed I was confused and forgetful. Financial statements they'd altered to make my assets look smaller than they were. A contract with an assisted living facility that I'd supposedly toured and agreed to. I signed everything they put in front of me. I played the role of the declining old man perfectly. I asked the same questions twice. I forgot names of neighbors I'd known for years. I let Ashley organize my medications, watching as she took photos of every bottle, probably cataloging them for the fake medical reports. And every single moment was recorded. Every forged signature, every manipulative conversation, every lie they told. The cameras caught it all. "You're doing so well with this transition, Dad," Michael said during the 4th visit, sitting on my couch like he owned it already. "The facility is going to love you. They have bridge tournaments every Thursday." "That sounds nice," I said vaguely. "When do I move?" 2 weeks, Ashley said. "We've already started packing some of your things. The stuff you won't need." "Won't need?" "The furniture, Dad," Michael explained with exaggerated patience, like talking to a child. "The facility is furnished. We'll sell most of this. The estate sale company thinks they can get good prices for the antiques. My father's desk, my wife's china, our wedding photos. They were already planning to auction off my life." "What about my accounts?" I asked. "My pension?" "Don't worry about any of that," Michael said. "I'm handling everything now. In fact, the power of attorney went through yesterday. I'm officially your financial representative." He was lying. The real power of attorney he'd filed had been rejected by the county clerk for improper notarization. But he'd created fake acceptance documents, complete with a forged county seal. I knew because James had a contact at the clerk's office who alerted us. "That's good," I said. "I trust you, son." The look that crossed his face then, I'll never forget it. Not guilt, not shame, just relief that the old man was making this easy. After they left that night, I sat in my study and reviewed the recordings. James had been right. The case was airtight. We had video of them forging documents, audio of them planning to liquidate my assets, digital evidence of the offshore accounts they'd set up, bank records showing that Michael had already started making small transfers, testing the waters. "It's time," James said when I called him. "They're escalating. Yesterday they tried to access your brokerage account. The security team flagged it and called you. That's when they'll realize you're not as far gone as they thought." "What happens next?" "They'll panic," James said. "And people who panic make mistakes. Be ready." The mistake came 3 days later. I woke up at 3 in the morning to the sound of breaking glass. The back door. Someone was in the house. I didn't move. I lay in bed, my eyes open, listening. 2 sets of footsteps, moving through the kitchen, into the living room. They were trying to be quiet, but my cabin was old and the floorboards creaked. They were coming upstairs. My bedroom door opened slowly. I could see their silhouettes against the dim hallway light. Michael and Ashley. They were wearing dark clothes, gloves. They looked like burglars. They were burglars. "Is he asleep?" Ashley whispered. "Yeah," Michael whispered back. "Check the nightstand. His wallet, keys, everything. I'll get the safe combination." They thought I was asleep. They thought they could just walk in and take whatever they wanted. I lay perfectly still, breathing deeply and evenly, while they rifled through my drawers. "Got it," Ashley said. 3,000 cash, credit cards. "The safe's in the study," Michael said. He wrote the combination in his address book. "I saw it last week." They left the room. I heard them go downstairs, into my study. The sound of papers rustling. Then Ashley's frustrated voice. "It's not here. Where is it?" "He must have moved it," Michael said. Then, louder, "We'll have to wake him up. Make him tell us." This was it. The line they were about to cross, from theft to something more dangerous. I sat up in bed. I reached for my phone, the one James had given me with the direct line to his security team. I pressed the button. "Active emergency," I said quietly into the phone. 2 intruders, family members, attempting burglary and possible assault. Police and recording team needed immediately. 10 minutes out, the voice on the other end confirmed. "Stay on the line." I could hear them coming back upstairs. I heard Michael say, "Go wake him up. Tell him you heard a noise. I'll stay hidden. When he comes out, I'll get him to open the safe." Ashley knocked on my door. "Dad? Dad, are you awake?" I think I heard something downstairs. I turned on my bedside lamp. "Ashley? What are you doing here?" She was still wearing the gloves. She'd forgotten to take them off. "Michael and I were worried about you," she said, the lie smooth and practiced. "We drove up to check on you and we saw your back door was open. We think someone tried to break in." "Oh my goodness," I said, playing along one last time. "Should we call the police?" "Already did," she lied. "But Dad, we should check your safe. Make sure nothing was stolen. Can you open it for us?" "Of course," I said. I stood up slowly, reaching for my robe. "It's in the study." We walked downstairs together. Michael was standing in the study, pretending he'd just arrived. "Dad, thank God you're okay. Did Ashley tell you about the break-in?" "She did," I said. I walked to the painting on the wall, the one hiding the safe. I moved it aside. "We need to make sure everything's there," Michael said, stepping closer. "Too close. Your bonds, your cash reserves, everything." "It's all here," I said, not opening the safe. "But actually, I moved the important documents last week." Michael froze. "What?" "I moved them," I repeated, "to my attorney's office. After you two filed that fake power of attorney with the county." The silence was deafening. Ashley recovered first. "Dad, what are you talking about? We filed that together. You signed it." "No," I said calmly. "I watched you forge my signature on October 15th at 6:37 p.m. in this room. I have video and audio and every document you've forged since then." Michael's face went from red to white. "You're confused. You're not thinking clearly." "My neurological exam from 2 weeks ago says otherwise," I said. "Clean bill of health. Dr. Morrison has already provided a sworn affidavit that I'm completely competent. Your fake doctor's letter, the one you fabricated, that's also on record." Ashley grabbed Michael's arm. "We need to go, now." "You're not going anywhere," I said, and on cue, red and blue lights flooded through the windows. The police had arrived, right on schedule. The next hour was chaos. Michael and Ashley tried to run. They made it to the back door before 2 deputies tackled them on my lawn. James arrived with his entire evidence packet, 3 boxes full of recordings, documents, financial records, witness statements. The police captain, a woman named Rodriguez, listened to everything. Then she looked at Michael and Ashley, handcuffed and sitting on my porch, and shook her head. "This is one of the most thoroughly documented fraud cases I've ever seen," she said. "Wire fraud, forgery, conspiracy, breaking and entering, attempted theft. You're both looking at federal charges." "It's not fraud," Michael shouted. "He's my father. I was trying to help him." "By forging his signature?" Rodriguez asked. "By creating fake medical documents? By breaking into his house at 3 a.m.? That's not help, Mr. Bennett. That's elder abuse, and the FBI takes that very seriously." They were taken away in separate cars. Ashley was crying. Michael was silent, staring straight ahead. I watched them go and felt nothing. Not sadness, not anger, just a cold sense of completion. "There's going to be a trial," Rodriguez said to me. "You'll have to testify." "I know," I said. "Your son will be represented by a public defender. They'll try to paint you as a confused old man who misunderstood their intentions." "Let them try," I said. "I have 40 years of forensic accounting experience. I think I can handle cross-examination." The trial happened 4 months later. It lasted 3 days. James and I presented the evidence methodically, piece by piece. The forged signatures, the doctored medical records, the offshore accounts, The recordings of them planning my institutionalization, the break-in caught on camera. Michael's lawyer tried to argue that it was all a misunderstanding, that Michael was just trying to help his aging father. But when I took the stand, dressed in my old bureau suit, and walked the jury through the forensic analysis of the forged documents, pointing out every telltale sign of fraud with the precision of an expert witness, that argument collapsed. The jury deliberated for 2 hours. Guilty on all counts. Michael got 7 years federal prison. Ashley got 5. They were also ordered to pay restitution for every dollar they'd attempted to steal, plus court costs and investigative expenses. After the sentencing, I stood outside the courthouse. James stood next to me. "How are you doing?" he asked. "I'm okay," I said. And I was. I thought I'd feel worse, watching my son be led away in chains. But all I felt was relief. Relief that it was over. Relief that justice had been served. "What are you going to do now?" James asked. I looked up at the Colorado sky, clear and blue. "I think I'm going to sell the cabin," I said. "Too many bad memories now. Maybe buy something smaller, closer to town. Somewhere I can volunteer, maybe teach accounting at the community college. Stay busy." "That sounds good," James said. "And Tom, you did the right thing. I know it doesn't feel like it, but you did." I drove back to the cabin one last time. I walked through the rooms, remembering when they'd held happy memories. Sarah and I dancing in the kitchen. Michael learning to read in the study. Christmas mornings by the fireplace. Those people were gone now. The house was just a house. I called a real estate agent that afternoon. The cabin sold within a week to a young family with 2 kids. I donated most of the proceeds to the Colorado Elder Justice Coalition, an organization that helps elderly victims of financial abuse. The rest went into a trust for Michael's children, my grandchildren I'd barely met, for their college education. They didn't deserve to suffer for their parents' crimes. I moved into a small condo in downtown Denver. I started teaching forensic accounting at the community college 2 days a week. I volunteered with the district attorney's office, helping them build cases against elder fraud. I made new friends. People who wanted to know me, not my bank account. People who played chess because they enjoyed it, not because they were waiting for me to die. 6 months after the trial, I received a letter from Michael. It had been forwarded through his prison chaplain. I almost threw it away without reading it, but curiosity won. The letter was short. It said he was sorry. It said he'd been desperate, that Ashley had pressured him, that the debt had made him crazy. It said he hoped I could forgive him someday. I read it once, then put it in a drawer. Maybe someday I would respond. Maybe not. The truth was, the son I'd loved didn't write that letter. That son died the moment he forged my name. I learned something important through all of this. The value of a life isn't measured in bank statements or property deeds. It's measured in integrity, in truth, in the courage to do what's right even when it breaks your heart. They say blood is thicker than water. But I learned that trust, once broken, evaporates like morning dew. No amount of shared DNA can rebuild what betrayal destroys. If you've ever had to choose between family and justice, between loyalty and truth, I want you to know something. You're not alone. The choice is devastating. But sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to be a victim, even when the predator shares your name. I'm 70 now. I live in a small place with a mountain view. I teach young accountants how to spot fraud. I help prosecutors put away people who prey on the elderly. And every single day, I'm grateful I had the skills and the strength to fight back. Because here's what they never understood. Growing old doesn't mean growing weak. Experience isn't the same as decline, and underestimating someone because of their age is the most expensive mistake you can make. If you're dealing with something similar, if someone you trust is stealing from you or manipulating you or trying to take control, document everything. Seek help. Don't be ashamed. You're not stupid for trusting family. They're criminals for betraying that trust. And remember this. Justice might be slow, but it's thorough. The truth always comes out. Always. Tell me in the comments if you've ever had to make an impossible choice like this. Your story matters. Your voice matters. And you're stronger than anyone who underestimates you.